a different behavior. Here's another one. Here's a nudge it. Here's a paw it. Here's a this or that and this or that. And then I go back after 2 days and go back to the down and see how quickly they pick up on it. Did they really learn it? Did they not learn it? If they learned it, you'll see it come back with a vengeance, with speed and accuracy and fervor and a lot of strength. If they didn't fully learn it, you'll see them struggle a little bit. So that's another way to test, did you really learn this behavior? Is it actually on command? Or did you just get kind of lucky because they were tired and they slid down into a down? And it didn't make a connection for them at all. So be very clear about that, and also for dogs that have to learn a lot of things, we keep it fresh by always mixing it up. So you kind of get both benefits by kind of mixing it up really quickly. Once a dog learns something, switch to something new. Don't wait till they've finished learning it. Maybe they're still struggling with it. Go back to the last thing they were successful at and see if it's working for them. So, all right, so those are the 4 tips. Make sure you initiate with a hand signal or cue first. Make sure you test this sequence several times in a row to see if it was not a fluke or coincidence. It's actually consistent. Make sure you test this behavior on command in several contexts, including stretching a little bit with distance, duration, and distraction. And make sure you test the behavior over a period of several days. Give it a break, come back to it, see if it comes back. Then you can say, hey, the dog has learned this. So, for instance, today, Yonkers finally got the down, and I can actually marry the word down with the hand signal that I had been teaching her. Now, that doesn't mean it's learned. It means we made progress, huge progress. She's only 13 weeks, so it's pretty, not quite 13 weeks. So that's pretty huge progress, but I'm not going to say it's learned until I go back tonight or tomorrow and she picks up on it really quickly. And then if it's consistent, and I've tested it several times in several places in the house, I'm going to say that girl knows how to do it down on a hand signal and verbal cue. So that's what I'm talking about. You just kind of don't get too excited that the dog gave you something. Make sure you give it some time to settle in and test it out a little bit. Okay, I mentioned capturing, which is a kind of way of training behaviors, but only certain kinds of behaviors. It's the exception I discussed in rewarding a dog for behavior without asking for it. So let me explain what capturing is. And I think once you guys know what this is, you're going to just be like, really cool. Because you can capture your dog to do anything that they naturally offer you. And that's the key element. You're going to capture your dog doing a behavior they naturally do anyway. Like Rambo likes to rub his eyes with his paw, and he likes to shake his head a lot. So I was successful at capturing the shaking the head on command. It's fairly solid, not perfect. I still need to work on it. I wouldn't say it's fully learned yet. When he's really alert, it's on. But if he's like at all foggy-headed, he doesn't pay any attention. So I'm going to keep working on that. But what it means is the dog naturally offers you something without your intervention, and then you mark the height or the best of that behavior with a bridging reinforcement before you reinforce with something like food or toys or praise. So bridging reinforcement, to explain that is anything that is not naturally a reinforcement for the dog that you have associated with a natural reinforcement or a primary reinforcement. In other words, a common one is a clicker. So if you click and make that little high-pitched noise with a little simple machine there called a lever, you would, and a fulcrum, I guess that's 2 simple machines. So you would actually make that noise right when they did that behavior the best, or right when they first offered it, or right when you're trying to, like, if you're shaping it, you're trying to get the best one out of the many trials they're giving you. You mark that behavior as saying, that's exactly what I wanted, and food is coming, or whatever the reward is. So that's what we call a bridging reinforcement. It gives you a little stopgap time there between the end of the behavior and the reward. So if I'm watching my dog, after taking a bath, and he's running around and shaking his head, as soon as he shakes his head, I'm going to click, and then I'm going to run over and give him food while he's sopping wet. And he shakes his head, and I'm going to click and give him food, and then I'm going to try to time it with my hand signal, and while right in front of his face, shake my hands like in my hand signal, click and give him food. And now I'm associating all those things, and now he's going to try to get food. He's going to shake his head just to get more treats. Now he thinks he's manipulating me, but that's the game, right? So you keep doing that, and you've got yourself a little captured moment. And then from there, I can start picking the ones that he keeps offering me. Because when your dog learns something and you praise them and reward them for it, they start throwing that stuff at you. Like you pull out a treat and they're like, sit down, roll over, and all this stuff, bark on command, all this garbage that you've taught them, right? Until you have to wait till they all actually either listen to you or, offer you the right behavior. So when that happens, when they're that excited about it, then we just take advantage of them, right? So when Rambo does a better, harder shake, a longer one, that's when I click, but I don't click for the other ones and I pay for that. And then I wait for a harder one and longer one, click that one and pay for that and click for that. So I'm starting to be picky about which head shakes I want. So I get a nice, really hard duration, like a really full-bodied head and body shake out of the deal. And that's what he gives me almost every single time. And that, my friends, is also the definition of shaping. So, like, if your dog likes to give you the paw or lift the paw up in the air from a distance, then you can click or make some kind of marker noise, not the word good, but do that, then say good, and then offer them the reward for, food reward or whatever. So that's called capturing. In that case, you're waiting for the dog to give you something that they do naturally. And that's different than when you are trying to train a dog to do something on command that you've actually had to shape by manipulating or convincing them to do a certain behavior or move into a position. So that would be the definition, that would be the actual exception to the situation of avoiding those coincidences. In that case, when you're waiting for something to happen and you're clicking, you're clearly not looking for a coincidence. You're clearly just trying to encourage the dog to keep doing it by using that little marking reinforcement or that bridging reinforcement that you have. All right, so coincidence. Test your dog's behavior under different circumstances for on-command reliability, for consistency and repetition during that training moment, and for consistency and repetition over several days. If you've got consistency, repetition, and on-command control, your dog is actually trained to do the behavior you're concerned about. If you don't have consistency, then you're likely to have a beautiful, happy coincidence that's working for you right now, at this moment, in this context, but it doesn't mean they're actually trained. So, going back to the example of the house training, and you're hearing me say, look, if you're looking for consistency and on command, you can't do that with house training. I'm like, oh yes, you can. So, along with house training, not only do I use crates, but I teach my students and my clients to actually train their dog to pee and poop, eliminate on command on the leash. It's part of the leash walk. So now they have not only don't do it here, but do it here outside at this spot. And we're telling them to mark for us and work for us with our imaginary strategy of marking in the territory. And now they have something to look forward to actually pee and poop for you. It's an amazing, charming thing that you can do with your dog when they are so excited to take a poop just for you outside at the spot you asked them to within 12 seconds. It makes them very excited. This is how we train dogs to be service dogs and therapy dogs so they don't take a crap in the hospital. Okay? So it can be done, and you can have a way to make that house training on command, which reinforces what you're doing here. As soon as Yonkers is done with all her shots and we can take her on the walks, that's what I'm going to do to reinforce the house training, which is not going that well, by the way. But that's because I was lazy. That's right. Dog trainers can be lazy too. Mostly because we think we can fix everything eventually. Anyway, so the deal is that the house training can be done on command as well. So I'm not contradicting myself, folks. Don't worry about it. Don't think you got me on that one. You might get me on another one. Shubs of the week. That's the stupid human behaviors, you know what I mean? Like, this is where we talk about the dogs we love and the stupid human behaviors we don't. Shubs. Okay, here it is. Why is it that when people know that your dog is a little nervous around people, that they must stare your dog in the eyes? Why is that? Why must, they like, oh, are you shy? And meanwhile, they have like this wrought iron beam from their pupils to your dog's pupils. And of course, then eventually your dog decides to bark at this person because the dumbass keeps staring at them, which is threatening. So I'm like going, really? Are you serious, people? Are you serious? I just told you my dog's afraid of people, and you're staring at them like, oh, what a shame. We're just staring at them with not saying anything. Don't give other dogs eye contact. I don't even give my dog eye contact unless I'm rewarding him or asking him to give it to me. So don't do it, people. Don't look your friend or your neighbors or the passerby. Don't look the dogs in the eyes ever. Look at the shoulders. Look at their ass. Look at the top of their head. They're very aware of eye lines. So don't screw with them, okay? So that's a really dumb move. If you have a shy dog or a nervous dog, just that by having that eye contact with the dog can really set the dog off. And now you're, if it's somebody who's passing by and yes, they have an attractive Great Dane or whatever it is that really excites you, um, you are now making it really hard for the owner to keep that dog in check and actually teach them to be okay with humans. You have gone backwards for them, and that's not cool. And if the dog is like barely holding their stuff together and they tend to be aggressive when they're nervous, you're asking for trouble. I don't walk into people's houses with aggressive dogs and look them in the eye. I'm not a shubster on that level. Maybe other levels, but not that level. So I'm telling you right now, save yourself a lot of trouble, save everybody else a lot of trouble. Don't look at your dog's eyes or other people's dog's eyes at all, ever, no matter what. Look, if you like the dog, look at some other part of the body, talk to the owner, but don't stare him in the eyes. That's just really, really bad form, and just, it's impolite, completely impolite in the dog world. So, speaking of dog world, to love is to serve. So give your dog little ways every day to serve you, and in return, you'll be actually serving them very well. I will talk to you all next week. Bye. I'm just Mom and Harry, and he's just